It was back in the 1960s when a poor household was blessed with twin girls, Mary and Megan. We were the epitome of the beauty standards for Kenyan women at the time, but we were as different as night and day, fire and water. Identical in appearance, but complete opposites in our mannerisms, fashion, the way we spoke, and even in our academic performance. Yet, despite all of this, we were as thick as thieves. Our twin telepathy and sisterhood bond grew stronger because of the difficult circumstances we faced. I was the night, while Megan was the day. I started hustling early, doing everything I could to make money and ease the financial burden on my family. As the eldest sister, I took that responsibility to heart. In an era where resources were scarce, I met Mzungu, a white man, who had come to Kenya to see the flamingos and wildlife. Local girls knew that Mzungus sought more than just the thrill of wildlife. Henry, the Mzungu, began courting me. Eventually, we started dating and even moved in together. Henry was an older gentleman, refined in his charm, though he was only about 10 years older than me. But my focus wasn't on him as a person, it was on his wealth. I would often take everything I could from his house, pretending it was a burglary. I'd stash the things I took and bring them back home to help pay for Megan's studies and to feed my 7 other siblings, as well as our parents. But as they say, the days to catch a thief are only 90. On the 99th day, Henry returned home to find me in the middle of one of my heists. Shocked and panicked, I fled. Furious, Henry went on a manhunt, following every scent to track me down. He eventually caught up with Megan on her way home from school. He slapped her so hard she was knocked to the ground, then kicked her repeatedly. "Mary, how could you do this to me?" he shouted. "I loved you, I wanted to marry you." "Why, Mary? Why?" The girls walking with Megan shouted, "She's not Mary. She's Megan." But Henry, confused, started laughing hysterically. "You didn't even tell me your real name?" He continued kicking her. Megan, still disoriented, came to her senses. And despite the pain, she decided to take the blame for me. After all, I would have done the same for her. "Yes, I am Mary. Please, stop." She began to beg. She didn't know Henry's name or identity, but she clung to the word, Mary. "Please, stop. I'm sorry." "I'm sorry for what?" Henry retorted. "You'll pay for this." He ordered the police officers with him to arrest Megan, thinking she was me. As a minor, she was sentenced to 5 years in prison. 3 years later, I returned home after escaping Henry's mansion that night. I'd gone to the coastal city, trying to run from the danger and retaliation Henry might bring. I was also scared of implicating my family, especially Megan. I thought the sharp contrast between Megan and me would protect her in case Henry found her. But when I came back, I was met with an empty, desolate home. People stared at me strangely as I walked down the streets. Everyone avoided me or cursed behind my back. I rushed to Megan's best friend Alice's house. "Alice, what happened to my family? Where is Megan?" Alice slapped me and kicked me. "You wretch. Megan is in prison for you. She's been rotting away for 2 years. Your parents sold everything to prove Megan's innocence and identity. But your sister, the saint, refused all help, claiming she is you and did everything." I fell to my knees, and for the first time in a long while, I cried my heart out. I knew I had to come clean to Henry. With a heart full of guilt, confusion, and pain, I wandered the streets like a madwoman, eventually ending up at Henry's mansion. When he saw me, he gasped. You? How is this possible?" I stepped forward, heart pounding. "You detained the wrong girl. I'm Mary. The one in prison is my twin sister, Megan. She's innocent." Henry, now realizing the truth, asked me to come inside. By now, he had pieced everything together. He recalled how different Megan had seemed from the girl he thought was Mary. Megan had always appeared reserved, articulate, and with an aura of class, which confused him at the time. Now, he felt a deep ache in his heart for what he had done. I knelt before him and shared my story. I love my family. I would do anything for them. Our parents raised us with love, but as the family grew, our resources became scarce. Megan and I both loved school, but the fees were too expensive. I pretended not to like school to make sure I didn't add to the burden on my parents, so Megan wouldn't feel guilty. After school, she'd tutor me by candlelight, so I wouldn't miss out on anything. By the time we were 9, we had 7 younger siblings. My dad worked as a driver, while my mom did all kinds of odd jobs. Looking at the situation, I knew I had to do something. My siblings were smart, and it wasn't their fault they were born into poverty. I started hanging out with the wrong crowd, and before I knew it, I was scoring big heists. Slowly, our living conditions improved. I had one rule: I only robbed people who could spare it, and I never physically harmed anyone. I'm sorry, Henry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I loved you, but I love my family more. Henry was moved by my story and felt guilty for arresting Megan. He immediately worked with his lawyer to bail her out. When Megan was released, I cried, constantly apologizing to her. Megan, I'm so sorry. Megan hugged me. No, sister, you've always supported me. Now it's my turn to support you. I love you, Mary. We all love you. Mom, Dad, and the rest of our siblings love and miss you. You are our light. Henry decided to compensate Megan. He bought the family a farm and built them a house big enough to fit all 11 of us. He also sponsored my siblings' education. After I came clean to him, he handed me a check for 1,000 Kenyan shillings, a large amount at the time, equivalent to what would be close to $100,000 to $500,000 today. This is everything I owe you, I said, placing the money in his hands. Henry was stunned, then embraced me. Mary, I wish you had told me earlier. I love you for who you are. Knowing about your family situation makes me love you more. Please, marry me. Tears welled up in my eyes. Yes, I will marry you. And then, there was a surprise. Henry, I have a surprise for you. 2 identical 2-year-old boys came running in, shouting, Daddy. Henry was confused, but it took him 10 years to finally differentiate between his sons. We had a wedding in Kenya, with Henry's parents attending. They were overjoyed to meet their grandkids. After the wedding, we relocated to England, where I returned to school and became a human rights lawyer. We eventually had triplet daughters. Now, living happily in England, we occasionally visit Kenya. My siblings became accomplished students, winning awards and bringing glory to our family. We opened a shelter and charity home called Second Chance, dedicated to sharing the light and love we once received. Megan's point of view: Megan always knew the sacrifices I made for the family. She always felt inadequate and guilty toward me. So, when she remembers the evening Henry attacked her, only joy fills her heart. At least she was able to protect me. Her cellmates cried when she was released, because she had taught them how to read and write, making them literate and helping them dream of a better future. After her release, she continued to volunteer in the prison. Megan went back to school and became one of the first female doctors in the country. She eventually opened a hospital with multiple branches, which is still thriving today in 2024. She's happily married with her own family and, just like me, has her own set of twin boys and triplet girls, all identical. The end. Biggie K Afro stories of popcorn and movies follow. Like, share and comment.